We've been following this Channel 3 investigation now for 2 years. Tonight we have our hands on these new documents saying the sheriff not only knew about this, but was actually involved. I asked the tough questions, and this is what the sheriff had to say. Sue, in today's world, cameras are everywhere, from your cell phone to just about any business and at your front door. For police, knowing where those cameras are can help with many investigations. Bob, we continue to be getting hammered by these large wind gusts. Luckily, the rain has started to clear up after being relentless throughout the day, but that wind has taken its toll on a lot of trees here in the heart of Charleston. We can show you one here right now. What looks like just a row of bushes over there. That's a tree that toppled over the side of a fence over there. Power, another major concern. More than 200,000 people lost power across the state. But some good news, it seems the cavalry is on the way. As we were on the interstate coming here today, I saw dozens of linemen headed this way. With just the touch of a button, a homeowner could be practically anywhere and see who is at their door and what they're doing, and that could help timing for law enforcement. Still a very active scene out here. We continue to see more and more investigators arriving on the scene, combing over evidence here, multiple evidence markers leading up to the doorway of the home here in the corner, which seems to be the focus of this investigation. Just another sign of the constant violence we've been seeing as of late, such as yesterday we showed you that press conference from Escambia County Sheriff David Morgan, who at that point confirmed things are even as serious as contract killings, bounties put on people's heads, lives with price tags. To begin with new details on the mass shooting at NAS Pensacola and our continuing coverage of Friday's shooting, we have a message from Ryan Blackwell tonight, who is still recovering in the hospital after being shot. We also have Florida's First Lady, Casey DeSantis, honoring the 3 sailors who died as flags fly at half-staff in their honor. Finally, we want to show you how a tribute at the Graffiti Bridge has already changed. At this point, do you know anything about the investigation further?
Well, I could tell you that we've got, local, state, and federal assets all at play.
For our interview with Captain Kinsella, we were allowed 5 questions we had to submit before our interview. The Navy making it very clear he would not answer questions surrounding the investigation into the mass shooting. Let's get right to our top story. 2 people are dead, found inside a vehicle submerged underwater near a boat ramp at Liza Jackson Park in Fort Walton Beach. Our Jamarla Phillips is at the scene. He joins us live now with what we're learning from investigators tonight.
You're watching Northwest Florida's news station. This is WEAR, Channel 3 News at 10 in high definition.
What you just heard there was gunshots at a minor league football game in Century. Good evening, I'm Nylander. That incident happened last night at the Anthony Pleasant Park located on East Highway 4 as the game between the TC Venom and Greater Pensacola Jets ended. Well, this is all that remains of this apartment unit in Midway, ash, rubble. 11 families called this place home, now piecing their lives back together during the holiday. This is more than 300 pages of documents we obtained through a public records request. This is all of former Detective Daniel Seaman's personnel file and his training records.
More questions being raised now about Escambia County's emergency medical services after a state-level investigation was sparked by the county's medical director.
Now, what began as discussion between county commissioners considering a proposal to retrain all EMTs, well, it quickly took a turn this morning. And Channel 3's Chorus Nylander was there and joins us from the Public Safety Building with more.
Sue, before county commissioners could even truly address the agenda item to retrain all EMTs, public comment turned into shock for some commissioners once a public speaker brought this chain of emails to their attention.
A man returning home to surprise his family, shot and killed by his father-in-law. Channel 3's Chorus Nylander is live from the Villa Venice neighborhood where it happened. Chorus?
Well, this family and community are undoubtedly hurting tonight, grieving for this man's death and what the sheriff's office says was a birthday surprise gone so horribly wrong. Tonight, the question still remains why. What would lead a son to kill his parents? Yesterday, Robert and Jolene Price were shot and killed just inside this home. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office still investigating the motive.
A local Army veteran is being forced to prove he is still alive. It's because a complete stranger somehow called the federal government and reported him dead.
To make matters worse, his monthly retirement checks have been withheld for the past 4 months. Channel 3's Chorus Nylander investigates how it happened.
Robert Clark was drafted into the Army, served in Vietnam, and was shot while serving his country, and still gave 3 decades of service to the nation. Tonight he is wanting answers and change. I brought his ordeal to the attention of Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is now launching an investigation. This is Robert Clark's life on display.
Sergeant Major there.
30 years he served his country in the Army.
Went to Vietnam twice, and I also went down to Santo Domingo when we had that little uprising down there.
In Vietnam, he took a bullet, but that didn't end his military career.
It kind of grew on me, so I stuck around.
He more than earned his monthly retirement check, but for the past 4 months, that money has been withheld from him. It started in August when he realized he could no longer access his credit union account where his retirement funds would go. Then when he tried to make a purchase, his card declined.
I didn't think anything about it because I knew the money was there.
But when he went to his credit union and talked to someone there, all of that changed.
She said, the reason why you can't get into your account has been locked down. And I said, well, what was the reason for it? She said, on the 13th of August, we received a message from the finance center that you had died.
Clearly, that's just not true.
I'm not dead.
Speaking with a supervisor from the Department of Defense Finance Center, he says he learned a woman who gave the name Teresa Clark had called with his Social Security number and reported his death. That supervisor, he says, gave him her phone number. He called it.
And she answered the phone. I asked her, was she Teresa Clark? And she said, I don't want to talk to you, and hung the phone up.
So we called. At first, a woman answered and hung up as soon as I asked if she was Teresa Clark. A second call, a different woman started yelling at me, saying she knows nothing about a Teresa or Robert Clark, and threatened to call the police for harassment. It remains a mystery if Teresa Clark is a real person or fake name, and what the intentions were. What Robert doesn't understand, to prove he's alive, he had to provide 2 forms of ID and answer a series of security questions.
I am the real person. You put me through that drill to give me the information. Why didn't you do that to them?
After being reported dead, his July payment was taken back, and he's still waiting for August, September, and October. It's been constant calls and red tape.
They need to make sure they go through the entire security drill before they take action against an individual.
I put Robert on the line with Congressman Matt Gaetz' office.
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
Gaetz' team now looking into the situation.
That's unacceptable for you to go that length of time without being paid, and you sound very much alive to me.
But Robert isn't even worried about his own money now. He wants to make sure no fellow veteran goes through this again.
This is something that needs to be looked at in case it's happening to other people.
Here was 2002. Dr. Graves was found guilty in a Milton courtroom for 10 counts, including manslaughter for the death of 4 of his patients. He prescribed painkillers. After this case, prosecutors across the country put doctors under the microscope for their role in what's now become a clear opioid epidemic. But today, Dr. Graves' son is begging for his freedom and offering a different perspective of the crisis. Before anyone heard the words opioid epidemic, there was Dr. James Graves.
He sat there during the whole trial, and he'd look at me and my wife every time that our son's name was mentioned. He'd look at us and he would grin.
In February 2002, Dr. Graves was convicted of manslaughter in Milton. 4 of his patients died after being prescribed what infamously became known as Graves' cocktails, a deadly mixture of painkillers, including OxyContin.
The first physician that was actually convicted of manslaughter in the overdose deaths of his patients.
His son shares his name, James Graves III. His dad was sentenced to 45 years, and he knows he'll likely never see his father again outside these prison walls.
The judge said it when he sentenced him, that this is a death sentence. Our whole family went and hugged my dad for the last time.
To this day, he believes his father is a good man. He's in the middle of his second clemency request for his father. He says it is not to clear his dad's name, but he's asking for mercy as his dad's health declines.
We're just asking for them to commute the remainder of his sentence so that we can, have a meal with him one more time.
Show mercy. Show mercy.
Graves is a musician and has compiled an album of songs like this, dedicated to his father's freedom. He believes his father was caught up in a lack of knowledge at the time of the dangers of opioids.
We're asking ourselves, what good is this doing anyone? Have you slowed the opioid epidemic,
He regularly visits his father at Holmes Correctional and believes with what's now known about opioids, his father would have done things differently. He tells us he doesn't know how to stop the growing opioid epidemic, but there's one thing he believes isn't helping.
How do you fix it? I don't know. Sending doctors to jail? I don't think that's the way to do it.
A young, active college student, Keith Fell Jr. would never have imagined being slowed down. So many dreams, so many aspirations, work to do.
Here's a picture of him playing baseball. He played baseball all of his life, and they don't know how he didn't pass out.
You wouldn't know it looking at these old photos. Neither did Keith's mother, Cindy, that he was suffering kidney failure all those years. It wasn't until this past summer his family saw red flags.
Well, he came home from college. He goes to LSU. He came home for the summer, and he just wasn't right. He had vertigo, he had night sweats, he had nausea.
The symptoms led to some blood work, which led to a heartbreaking diagnosis.
From the blood work, that's when it all came out that he had stage 5 renal failure.
The final stage of kidney disease, a life-threatening predicament, time not on his side.
My husband is 55. He could be a donor, but it's an older kidney. And his brother, Keith's brother, is only 17, and you have to be 18 to be able to donate a kidney.
So Cindy turned to Facebook with a plea for help. The post seen far and wide, but suddenly a complete stranger, also from Pensacola, Reagan Scott, stepped forward to help Keith.
Like, incredible. Like, she would do this for my son?
She did.
He's my age and in college, and I had sympathy for that. I felt like if I was in that position, I'd want someone to help me out.
So after prepping for the surgery, December 13th, Reagan went through with the operation.
This is the one they took. It's the left one.
Meeting Keith for the first time, only very briefly.
Met each other the day before surgery by accident in the hospital cafeteria.
But nonetheless, giving Keith the gift of life this Christmas.
I hope we get to know each other better just because he does have my organ now. But if I was in this position, or my sister, or my family member, I would hope someone that could do it would do it for them.
And for Keith's mother, she can't help but turn to her faith, thanking God for this Christmas miracle.
I just look up at the sky every day and just thank God and say thank you, just thank you. And for Reagan, I'm forever, ever grateful. My family is forever grateful to her.